My producer puts it even more succinctly. What can an African grab in the 21st century? We know that we are blessed with a lot of natural resources, both above ground and underground, marine and air, water, gold, oil, minerals, amazing qualities of herbs and natural products, everything. Why don't we own the 21st century? Well, Dr. Ngozi Iweala-Nkonjo is a former director of the World Bank and the finance minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, so you can imagine that she knows a lot about what there is to know when it comes to ownership and money and property and development. And she's going to be delivering a lecture on this exact theme: what Africa must do to own the 21st century. That tells me that it is possible to better understand what the essence of this is, how it came about, and how you and I can benefit from it. Is the acting chief executive of the John Ajekum Kuffour Foundation, Professor Alex Dodu, a renowned pharmacist and pharmacologist. He is live on air with you and with me for the next 25 minutes or so. If you have a question for the good prof, post it to our page on Facebook. Just find TV3 Sunrise on the internet, on Facebook to be precise, and join in my dialogue. And Omar Farouk Mora, I wish you a good morning as well. You are saying that you want me to bring the ECG guys on the show so that they can explain themselves light up from morning to evening continuously for 3 days now. How about? You see, that's why it's called Sunrise. Just use sunshine.
Absolutely.
Red, gold, green. Yellow is for the sunlight. Prof, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Eric. Yep.
To Sunrise. Thank you very much for coming.
It's my pleasure, actually.
This is a really exciting proposition that Africa can own the 21st century, and there's things that we must do. From your point of view as the chief executive of the foundation, what is the essence of this lecture? What is going to be its main thrust?
I mean, the John Kuffour Foundation has been in existence since 2011, and it had its maiden governance lecture series by the former president of Germany, Horst Kohler, and that at that time the topic was walking the tightrope, balancing state, market, and society. This is the second in the series. The whole aim is that we need to bring world-class people to dialogue with us on things which are of importance to Ghana and definitely to Africa and hopefully to the world. This topic was chosen because, I mean, the speaker herself is world-renowned. I mean, everyone knows her. She used to be, as you said, the managing director of the World Bank. She's listed among the top 100 most powerful women in the world, one of the top 3 most powerful women in Africa, and one of the top 100 global thinkers, male or females. So she's someone about MIT. She's been there, done it, and she has a track record in governance. I mean, in Nigeria, she helped to wipe off the external debt. So we thought, if she is coming to Ghana and we are going to spend about 2 to 3 hours with her, what do we want to hear? There is this notion that the 21st century is Africa's century. But are we prepared for it? And if we are not, why not? So if we are going to own this century, what should we do? And since pharmacologists and the like probably are not the best, we thought, why not bring a banker, a finance minister, and also the coordinating minister of the Nigerian economy to tell us what Africa must do to own the 21st century?
Prof, I'll beg to differ with you. I think pharmacologists are the best. Why? Because most African countries and states have green in their color, and the green represents the land. And the land contains the plants and the herbs from which medicines are drawn, which give us health, which are prescribed and put together for us by your good selves.
Well, actually, you're right, because the foundation, the John Kuffour Foundation, the 3 things we've been involved in are leadership, governance, and development. And under development, really a huge part is health and agri, because 60% of people live on the land, and if we can use that to provide not just health but jobs, or rather not just jobs but health, so they are all linked. And really, I mean, President Kuffour does not see any growth in Africa if agri is not brought into health, into education, into leadership. So the foundation really sees agri as where to start, but not making a farmer a better farmer, but giving the farmer opportunities to either be a farmer, an accountant, an astronaut, whatever he or she wants. And that is really one of the things he passionately believes in.
Prof, the theme of the lecture suggests to me that we Africans do not own our own resources. We do not own the factors of production that develop these resources. We don't even own our own destinies. Am I right or am I wrong?
Eric, sadly, you're right. And the foundation, one of the things we want to bring to young people and actually to corporate executives is that if we expect growth in Africa, we see a kind of amendment of the German social market model where government provides the infrastructure and the laws, and private people actually own the process. For as long as governments are involved in business, we are left to be bystanders. Because in Ghana, we're always talking about employment, government is not creating jobs, strikes here and there. It's all because the model we have is one of government running things, whereas government should just be the referee and let us, you and I, own things. I mean, there's no way Africa is going to be anywhere if Africans are not millionaires. I mean, it's
that's an interesting point, Prof. You know what I'm saying is because a lot of the time when we say that we are blessed in Africa, we point to tangible resources. We point to people. We point to plentiful mineral wealth. We point to plentiful natural wealth. Agricultural and medicinal potential. We don't point to currency or fiat capital. Now, Dr. Ngozi Uwela-Nkonjo, she's a specialist in finance, in currency, in paper money, in fiat capital. So let it be value. In Africa, we have tangible assets which we don't seem to own or control, the process of the exploitation. How do you think these two different perspectives can work, and what is there to grab? Are we talking about, taking back ownership of all our resources? I mean, for example, nationalizing our mines and our lands, and what are we talking? I mean, how are we going to achieve this balance between public and private interests?
For starters, I mean, public-private partnerships will be there. But your question, let's face it, Eric, Africans are always shy to talk about money, and that is the problem. Because the medium of exchange, I mean, in business is all our currency, whether you own it or whether it's on paper or whether it's in the bank. And for as long as we keep referring only to the oil on the ground, to the fish in the sea, and to the green, but we need tangible things which can be exchanged, things which people can trade upon. And that's why Dr. Okonjo-Iweala, you mentioned the names very, very well. I mean, her view is that, look, let's move away from being shy about people having millions, about people having billions. If you look at America, if you look at Europe, they believe that the private individual, it is his capital, it is his wealth, which is the wealth of the nation. So for as long as we are embarrassed, indeed, the typical African talking about business wants the money back on the side. But if you are worth it, you must demand it. All that is needed is for you to pay your fair proportion of tax, so that the state can provide services for those who are less to do and those who, obviously, the state has to cater for. So really, it's a three-pronged attack. The state is a referee. The individual is empowered to achieve. But when he achieves, he gives something back to the state. We give him, let's say, an arena to operate, and then the state will use that for education, other things, and of course, provide social protection for the less well-off, the poor, those for all sorts of reasons are unable to participate actively in the theater of profit and production. So we must not be shy to talk about funding. We must not be shy to talk about money. We must not be shy to see Africans rich. Indeed, if our government set out and say, Eric, you are in this area, I want you to be world class, then Africa will be moving somewhere. But for as long as it's going to be an approach where, who is Eric? What we call the PhD, Paul syndrome, Down syndrome, we are never going to go anywhere. And we must move away from being embarrassed about success. Success is a good thing for individuals because it's individual success that moves countries forward.
Who qualifies to attend this lecture? Who is going to be there? And is it going to be interactive? Will there be a component where Dr. Ngozi Uwela-Nkonjo is going to exchange views and invite people to contribute or ask questions?
Yes. They talk on the 22nd of February at the Accra International Center at 6 p.m. is free and open to the public.
First come, first served.
First come, first served. Well, there'll be a few seats reserved for, but yes, first come, first served. We are hoping to pack the place. We are hoping that the talk itself will be just 1 hour. We want to be extremely efficient. Then we allow up to 1 hour and a bit for questions from the audience.
Very good. So if a Kayaye walks in to this lecture and says, look, I have no access to credit, I sleep in the street, I'm a migrant laborer, what can I do, Prof? What can I do, Doc, to own Africa in the 21st century? I want to be the next logistics mogul because I'm able to carry stuff on my head, and I think that if I had access to the right resources, I could own logistics in Africa in the 21st century. What can I do? What would you say to her? What do you think Dr. Uwela-Nkonjo would say to her?
I think she would say praise the Lord, and I would say praise the Lord, because you see, we want people to feel part of the development process. And it is these people that we have to touch. Indeed, at the foundation, what we say is that you want to touch the hearts and minds of people. You want to transform people's lives. It's not about the big things, the big launches that, let's say when people are in government, they do. I mean, His Excellency believes that after you've left the scene as a statesman, you want to touch lives. And last year, the foundation sponsored the Joy FM Easter Kitchen, dealing with the Kayaye and Co. And this year will be continuing, because it's people like that. Trust me, these are the people who want to use of microfinance, but they may have the best logistics, approach that we have never thought of. In healthcare, we know that it's when you talk to field workers that you understand the situation on the ground. There's no point making policy in Accra or Abuja or Berlin and thinking that to impact people on the street. It is when you listen to them, when you go down where they live. If you haven't been, as if you haven't been to Sodom and Gomorrah or walk on the streets of Jamestown or any other town in Ghana, and you want to make health policy, you are joking. Because the people you want to make the laws for, do you know how they live? Do they have electricity? Do they have toilets? So you talk about bed nets, and the man has no bed. You've already got it wrong. So these are the people we want, and we want them to feel welcome to take part in this program. If they cannot speak English, we will translate for them. Definitely there will be enough people speaking every single Ghanaian language, and of course Yoruba and Co.
Okay, Prof, I'm sure you know that we are live on air and online. We are fully interactive. Viewers are posting their comments and contributions to our dialogue as we speak to our discourse. I'd like to share 2 or 3 with you. Emmanuel Stone Cold Ferguson. Nice name, Emmanuel Stone Cold Atigbire Ferguson.
Wow.
Now he says, I want to ask Prof a question. Prof, for Ghana/Africa to succeed, do we need to act or just speak? He adds that most often than not, we Ghanaians or Africans only use our mouths in promoting prosperity. Can you talk about certain actions we need to take in order to really succeed? So that's the first one. The second one is Abdul Ghani Osman. And he writes that for Africa to own the 21st century, we need to first change our attitudes. Try hard, but machines that we don't have, especially, he mentions, a plant, for example, for refining Ghana's oil. Make sure we make our own currency. We need to let leaders whose works are not to our expectations resign. Lord help Africa, and he calls himself Pinocchio of Tohaba Hardwares in Wenchi. And the third I'll share with you is from Hakim Ibrahim Asamoah, and he posts writing that, good morning, Eric and Prof Dodo. I think it's a good idea, but if we don't fight corruption, I'm sorry, we cannot be like the UK, USA, and any other industrially or financially developed country. God bless Ghana. So the first one is about the third one was about corruption. The second one was about leadership. And the ability to process our own natural resources and parlay them into goods and services. And the third is about us doing so much talking but seemingly so little action.
In fact, all three are linked, because if you listen to the first question, it's talking about talk is cheap, we want to see action. But then we have stated that it's about good governance. What do we mean by good governance? If you set a platform, if government is just a referee and make sure everybody plays according to the rules, the issues of corruption normally will be moved aside. I always say that it is when governments get involved in the game and want to be businessmen that things get very, very complicated. And I firmly agree with the writer who said that, the viewer who said that if people don't do their job, move them aside. Quite often in our society, we don't evaluate people. People come in and they say they'll do A. 6 months down the line, Ghanaians are so conflict averse. They won't say, oh, you said you built a hospital. Where is the hospital? We just heap praises. In fact, Ghana is one of the few countries where even when people's relatives die in hospitals, they still thank the doctor. But we must evaluate people. If they don't deliver, you get rid of them. At the end of the day, you set a principle which is person independent. That is when we can move forward. So talking about action, if people don't move, if they don't act, get rid of them. Governments have to match it.
We do appreciate good things, though. We all appreciate, fine technology, like fine automobiles, fine architecture. We appreciate fine things in life. Everybody does, fine jewelry, fine clothes. When did our expectations become so mediocre that we actually accept mediocrity from public servants, even from leaders? Look at somebody here, Akwesi Asabre. Now, Akwesi is writing to us saying that he's a needy student. He says, I'm a needy student who wants to be, you'll never guess this, Prof. He says he wants to be an astronaut.
Praise the Lord.
In the near future. Says, I want to be an astronaut in the near future. My name is Akwesi Asabre. Does Kuffour's foundation also help people like me, and how?
We definitely, one of the leadership stream is we are targeting people from age 11 to 19, as well as university students in separate programs, because leadership has to be nurtured right from an early age. So in a bigger way, we are definitely targeting leaders and definitely seeking how you can help, the poor and the weak. But the issue is, you asked, is that when did we start accepting mediocrity? It's difficult to give a time frame, but if you look from the 70s down, our hunger for excellence has waned. Most people, I always say that the most painful part of the current generation is that we live without values. In the 70s on campus, we're young enough to go to university in the 80s, so people fought about philosophies, whether it's capitalist or socialist. Now there's only one philosophy: how to be rich quickly. And I keep telling students and everyone I meet that even if you're a rocket scientist, you stand on your feet to work.
Do we have a policy to unearth and develop talents?
What the foundation believes in is that if we do not unearth talent, if we do not nurture it, if we do not empower people, then we should forget it. Because all around there are people. And like this young man who said he wants to be an astronaut, he's dreaming big. All he needs is a simple push. And Eric, I'll give a small example. Maybe 15, 20 years ago, I was living in the UK. I started a small business. Within 2 weeks of registering as a small business, government writes to me and says, if you bought computers, the VAT will be refunded because you're only a small business. Do you need training on this, that? And that was when you realize that these are governments walking their talk, supporting you to be able to deliver. Of course, when you deliver, what do? You pay taxes. We at the foundation are very passionate about young people. Really, sometimes we joke and say those who are old, their time has passed. Their time has not passed.
Talking about time, in your time, you were the first non-European to have been elected president of the International Society of Pharmacovigilance. The finance minister of Nigeria, Dr. Iweala Nkonjo, is the first Nigerian to have been the director of the World Bank. Now, there are many people, there's a school of thought that would point accusing fingers at the pharmaceutical industry and at the financial institutions and say, you are the reasons why we are underdeveloped in Africa. Because of the interests of the pharmaceutical industry, we cannot develop our own herbal medicines. If we find a cure for cancer or for HIV or even for hepatitis or for asthma, you would simply, put it on the back shelf because you say, well, we've invested billions of dollars and we have to recoup our investment. The same applies to the financial institution. Maybe many will say that the policies and the programs prescribed by the World Bank are part of the reason for our current state of development or underdevelopment, if you read Walter Rodney. What would you say to that?
Well, I would always say that whenever people make those comments, I say, look, we've done a lot and we are doing a lot. But to the extent that we have Africans in leading position, and to the extent that their leadership does not really transform the continent, then something is wrong. It could be that the leaders themselves went and they were happy, you are there everywhere, traveling around and enjoying it. Or it could be that the system within which you come from is just not ready or has not decided that, look, here we are, let's move forward. Ghana, you look at Mampong, of which I've been proud to be on the council for several years. What products don't we have? I've heard all the complaints about the financial institution and also the pharmaceutical sector. Yes, the pharmaceutical sector is big business, and big business definitely wants to protect its capital always.
Big money.
Big money, but trust me, if we own our Mampong and we transform it, but quite often we have paid lip service.
What can we do? What can Mampong do to own
the 21st century?
The 21st century in terms of...
What I would say is that governments in Ghana, we're not talking about party political government, we're talking about the government of Ghana. She'll say that this is the way we are going to go, like the Chinese did. We're going to move these products. Look, we have the scientists. Does Ghana have enough scientists to get the next blockbuster? The answer is yes, 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 and yes.
And we have the natural resources.
We have the natural resources. We have the plants. We have people who are hungry for jobs. But quite often, it becomes talk, red tapeism. I've always said that if I work in any of the ministries, I'll be fired. Because I have worked in the pharmaceutical industry where if you say you deliver, you don't deliver, you are fired. And everyone knows that I always keep saying that 90% is not good enough. If you don't aspire to 100%, one of the most painful things is when Ghanaians say, oh, this is made in Ghana. If we have produced a Kofi Annan, if we have produced, etc., world leaders, why can't we do the simple things well? I believe we can. And really, my mission, what drives me to do this job for the John D. Kuffour Foundation is that there are people that if we push them enough and we get a critical mass, we don't need 100 people, maybe 10, maybe 20, we will challenge society. But the only way that will succeed is if society so challenges us and say, look, Alex, stop talking all these big things. You said you would do this. Have you done it? Because it's a two-way process. If people promise to deliver and those they have to deliver for do not hold them to account, like a priest, because it's a priest, you say, oh, he's God, then they fail. And really, that is one of the biggest challenges we have, whether it's to doctors, pharmacists, nurses. When people don't deliver, we feel free. But
who should deliver first? Should it be the leadership, or should it be those that are being led? Where does the process begin of owning the 21st century?
I think it starts from the people. Ghanaians should realize that any service offered to them by anybody, even including foundations, like the Kuffour Foundation, is a public good, and that public good should inure to their benefit. If that public organization or foundation fails, you must scream, you must yell, because at the end of the day, as we say in Ghana, you are sitting or somewhere, then someone says he's doing a foundation. These are the aims. If they are not attained, you can say it's deception of the public. In the same way, if the minister for ABC does not deliver, demand why they did not deliver. But quite often, when people don't deliver, we say, oh, you see, we seek excuses when we should rather demand explanations. And not till we demand explanations of all of us in public service, all of us, myself included, Ghana is not going to move forward. And when society demands and we don't deliver, trust me, the media will make sure that we are no longer there. But when society is accepting of mediocrity, when society thinks every little small thing you do, I mean, I keep saying that Ghana is the only place.
Is it our education? Is it something in our water? Is it something in our food? Or is it our tradition to just be very accepting and very understanding and, you know, very compliant and, you know, just compromise our own desires for what actually is available?
My personal philosophy, and this is not from the foundation, is that my personal philosophy is that we, the educated, we sort of connived amongst ourselves to just keep people where they are so that we are happy, because we can empower people. I mean, when you go to the village and you sit down with people and they start talking, you say, wow, this is wisdom. So really, I blame we who have been fortunate enough to have been from JSS to SSS to university. A lot has been given to us, and we need to empower people. You work in Europe or America, a 12-year-old will ask you questions. You come in and say, doctor, why are you doing this? Pharmacist, why are you doing that? And that is what they've been trained. We need to let our people ask why, and let people know that why is not a dirty word. Why must things happen this way? That is the only way people begin to think about things and change things. If you want things to remain the same, that so be it. But I believe it starts from the home. I mean, I've got 3 kids. Gosh, they question me on everything. And sometimes they say that you wrote this in your book, but you're not applying it. You know, I mean, but that is the sort of feedback you need. Immediate, instant, honest, and direct. There's nothing wrong with that.
Professor Alex Dodo is the acting chief executive of the John Agyekum Kuffour Foundation. He's also the author of many scientific articles and newspaper articles, and he regularly appears on radio and TV on a wide range of issues. If you want to read something by Professor Alex Dodo, well, there's Healthy Secrets, a layperson's guide to health issues, and he's the author of that book. He's been my guest. Interesting guest, interesting topic. What do you think? What can Africa do to own the 21st century? If you want to find out more, why don't you join Professor Alex Dodo and Dr. Ngozi Obiala-Nkojo. She's a former managing director of the World Bank. She's also the Minister of Finance of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. She's going to be delivering a lecture on this very topic, this very theme, what Africa must do to own the 21st century, on the 22nd of February at the Accra International Conference Center at 6 p.m. in the evening. First come, first served.